so we can help you solve whatever the issue or the dilemma is facing your Black African son or daughter. Make sure you hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Make sure you hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Make sure you hit the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Personal Cash App, Dr. Umar Johnson. Personal Cash App, $DRUMAR Johnson. Let's see if we have any parents to get us started. Let's see if we have any parents to get us started today. If you have a question about your son or daughter, education or mental health, you can text 215-989-9858. This is only about the children. This is only about the children. Education or mental health. Free Black Parent Teleconference. 215-989-9858. If you have a question, go ahead and shoot a text. To my New York Africans, to my New York City Africans, to my New York City Africans, I will be in Long Island, Saturday, April the 16th, Roosevelt Public Library, Long Island. I believe the doors open up at 2. I speak from 3 to 5, book signing from 5 to 7. It's been a long time since I last spoke in Long Island, so I'm looking forward to seeing all my Long Island Africans at the Roosevelt Public Library, April the 16th. Albany, Georgia. My Albany, Georgia Africans, I'll be with you April the 30th and May 1st. Go right ahead with your question, good sister.
Okay. So I am going to homeschool my children. Well, one of them, the one that's going to be in 9th grade next year.
Mm-hmm.
He is 14. He is biracial, and I have not done an amazing job of instilling really good confidence in him for his African Americanism.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to send him into the world without a really good foundation, but I want to do it without the shame. I don't want the shame of slavery. I want the honor of what we really are and where we really came from. And I don't think there's a better place to get it from than your lot. It's just that since I'm going to be homeschooling him, I need to do some kind of, correspondence or something. So I wanted to see if there was anything like that in the works or if I could help develop something like that.
Yes, ma'am. We probably would need to develop something like that. The FDMG curriculum, we're not unrolling that as of yet, but you will not have a difficult time teaching him African history and consciousness because he's at an age where he can understand it. And thank God for all of the grandmaster teachers and scholars that we have had come before us over the years, that we have so many books. And since he's a high school student, he'll be able to read his Dr. Ben. He'll be able to read Chancellor Williams, George G.M. James, so many great Black scholars who've done so much in terms of our history and consciousness. And because he's a high schooler, he'll be able to take advantage of all that great information. There's a bookstore, 2 of them actually, that I think you should visit. And I think you'll get all the textbook information and workbook information that you need for your son's Black history curriculum. The one bookstore is here in Philadelphia, and that's Hakim's, Hakim, Hakim's bookstore. and that is on South 52nd Street, right near 52nd and Walnut.
Okay.
But if you Google Hakeem's bookstore in Philadelphia, it'll pop right up.
Okay.
So you want to go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, with what you know so far, is there a nice book I can have him read this summer that maybe bridges, or to get him to kind of be susceptible to all this information? I mean, I told him a little bit. He's not completely ignorant. But what do you think? Should we do I was thinking about Obama's book, or maybe the.
I mean, you could have him read Barack Obama's book, but I don't really consider that Black consciousness a history, given the fact that Barack Obama is property of the white power structure. I really wouldn't. For me, I wouldn't be comfortable pushing Barack Obama as a form of Black history and culture. But I do think, though, now what I want you to do is after my call, I want you to text me. I'm going to text you a couple books that I think you should read. Okay. But you definitely want to visit the bookstores, though. Hakeem's is less than an hour from you. And the other bookstore that you need to read, which is one of the largest Black book distributors in the country. And that would be Everyone's Place in Baltimore. Everyone's Place, and you want to Google them as well. And Brother Nati, he's the owner. He's a Garveyite like myself, and he has any kind of book you want, and he will be able to run off to you in order all the books your son need to read. I'm gonna give you my recommendations, but because Brother Nati has so many books, I think you and your son need to take a trip to Everyone's Place in Baltimore. That's about an hour for you, a little over an hour, and then you got Philadelphia, which is about an hour for you as well.
Great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but you wanna take him. Now the other thing too, because he's in high school, the information is going to be great, but it's not going to be sufficient. You're going to have to make sure that you include field trips for your son into your Black history curriculum. And because you live in Delaware, you're so close to so many significant Black history artifacts and landmarks. You have the Great Blacks in Wax Museum in Baltimore, which is on North Avenue. It's actually on the same avenue as Everyone's Place bookstore. Not the same block, but the same street. They're separated by about, 10 city blocks, but they're both on North Avenue. You also had the Reginald F. Lewis Museum in Baltimore. You have the Frederick Douglass Frank Merriweather Maritime Museum in Baltimore. You have Harriet Tubman's hometown tour over in, I'm forgetting the Eastern Shore. The Harriet Tubman Visitors Center, the Frederick Douglass Hometown Tour, the Smithsonian Museum in D.C. You have all your Black colleges around here, from your Maryland Eastern Shore, your Delaware State, your Cheney, your Lincoln, your Howard, your Bowie, your Morgan, your Coppin, your Virginia State. You have the Nat Turner Land Tour. You have the Carter G. Woodson House in D.C. You have the Mary McLeod Bethune House in D.C., Frederick Douglass House in D.C. and Museum. You have the, what's our brother who invented the almanac? Benjamin.
Who's the guy with the bridges? Isn't it like King? No.
What is
I saw Joanna Trains, and there's a guy that invented all the bridges, like all the way across the South.
I'm not sure of his name, but taking him to places is going to make it so much more fulfilling for him to learn that. Philadelphia, here we have the Black African Holocaust Museum, the African American Museum. You could take him to the MOVE a home, you know, where he can see, you know, where the first black mayor of Philadelphia actually bombed and killed men, women, and children. Like you, with the older children, they're going to read and they need to read, but you also want to take them to the different landmarks and locations so it becomes real to them.
So if you had this as a project, what percentage of
Benjamin Banneker House,
3 hours a day, what percentage of that would you do just straight black reinforcement?
3 hours a day.
5 days a week, all year round. Yeah.
Okay. You might. Okay, 3 might work. 3 might work. You might want to go 4 because he's in high school. He's going to need a little bit more content than the other children. But
Sure.
It would depend on the breakdown of all the subjects. It would really depend on the breakdown of all the subjects. In fact, you might have to make Black history a 5th hour, because if you do an hour for language, an hour for science, an hour for your civics and social studies, and an hour for math, they go 4. So your Black history might have to be the 5th hour. And then, of course, homework for all of the subjects.
I wanted to tell you before we go, because I'm sure I'm taking a lot of your time, but a couple of years ago, I don't know if you'll remember, you did a video about what happens. It was like the public school prison pipeline thing.
Yes.
And you were talking about what happens to Black children in the school system. And every single time you said something, my shoulders went up a little bit, because every single thing that you said happened to my son.
Okay.
And I homeschooled him for 5th grade. That happened when he was in 4th grade. And
Wow.
So that was probably 4 years ago. And I homeschooled him for 5th grade solely based on the discussion that you had. So I just wanted to let you know that your work is really important.
Thank you.
It changed my life, and I appreciate it. And I look forward to getting your recommendations, and I will follow them to a T.
Will do, Queen. Make sure you send me that text in a few hours.
I will. Thank you so
now.
much.
Be blessed. All right.
All right. Bye.
Public school teacher was suspended after he hanged a black doll from a cord at the front of the classroom. I'm not surprised. Everybody's protected except Black children. I don't have children, but I have a niece and nephew. Recently, my oldest nephew has been getting bullied at school. Seems like the school doesn't care. I'm scared to make him not want to engage in school. Every time you go near him, he flinches and it breaks my heart. What can I do to make sure something is done? Sister Alexis from Ohio, you didn't mention the grade of your nephew, so it's hard for me to say how you should respond because I don't know how old he is or what grade he's in. But I would start with this. Number 1, it is illegal for a child to be victimized by violence. So as the parent, they should get a copy of the video so they can see exactly what is transpiring on the bus. The school will try to deny you the right to see the video, so you may have to write a letter to the superintendent. But under the FERPA law, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974, your nephew's parents has a right to see the video of him on the bus. FERPA gives you a right to see any documentation that involves your child. So that's number 1. Let's see exactly what's going on. Number 2, there needs to be a meeting with the principal to find out why nothing is happening. Number 3, you should look at the school district's code of conduct to find out what exactly the punishments should be for the children who are bullying your nephew. And then next, I would want to know, what is the bus driver and bus attendant? Every bus is required to have an attendant as well as a driver. What are they doing while your nephew is being bullied? And if he's flinching every time somebody comes close to him, that sounds like post-traumatic stress disorder. That sounds like post-traumatic stress disorder. And if you can prove that your nephews potential post-traumatic stress disorder was caused by the bullying that he has been subject to on that bus, then you can sue. I would sue that school district for violating that young man's constitutional right to safety, okay, and equal protection. 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law. He's not being protected, and he's afforded the same protection all the other children are afforded. So it might be time to get an attorney. But then also, I wonder if he has developed post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of being bullied on that bus. I want to know why the parents haven't stepped in to do something sooner than now, because it takes a while for you to develop post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, so if he has post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a very, very serious anxiety disorder, why did the parents let this bullying go on so long on the school bus before they stepped in? So that's my recommendation for you, Sister Alexis, and I hope it works out. And if we need to do a one-on-one consultation, please let me know. Okay.
Hey, Dr. Umar.
Peace and love, Sister Sabrina. Where you calling from?
Indiana.
Which part of Indiana?
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. I'll be coming back to Indianapolis at some point to do my Black Parent Boot Camp training.
Wonderful.
So,
I will be in attendance. I apologize. I missed the other one. But you will be posted on the site?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I can save my question till then since I have some time, or I can say it now.
You can give it to me now. I can give you a little bit of insight now.
Wonderful. My son, one moment, please. My son was born 25 and 5 weeks, so he was a micro preemie in the NICU 4 months. He is now 4 years old as of January. He had First Steps, which is, are you familiar with First Steps?
No, what's First Steps?
Okay, First Steps is a ABA therapy style up until you're age 3, which is when you can go receive ABA therapy. So he went to ABA therapy right away, started talking at 3 years old, words primarily, and we've just gotten sentences at 4. My concern question is, what should I be looking for as they are getting ready to transition him to preschool, pre-K in the fall? I think it may still be a little too soon, but he's excelling in all of the others, still working on potty training. What should I look for in a preschool and furthermore for kindergarten, since he has also been diagnosed with autism? And
Okay.
he had ABA therapy and all of the therapy since he's been age appropriate.
How old is he again?
He is 4 as of January. He was born 25 and 5 weeks, so I think that's about 4 months early.
Okay, but he's 4.
But having no other medical issues, just speech.
He's 4 years old right now.
Yes.
Okay, and he'll still be too young for kindergarten this coming fall?
Yes, so it'll be pre-K, so he'll be 5 in January.
Okay, he's not in pre-K right now?
He is not, but he's in intensive ABA therapy 40 hours a week.
Okay.
He was diagnosed with autism at 3.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Because you mentioned he was diagnosed with autism at 3.
Mm-hmm.
3 years old is a very young age to be getting classified with autism. Are you pretty certain and comfortable that it's autism?
Yes. Am I?
Yes.
From what I know and what I've seen, no. I don't think it's enough time. I'm comfortable with the diagnosis now from the neuropsych, from the IEP, from First Steps. Like I said, since he left the I'm comfortable with it, but I'm not sure that is the right diagnosis. We did rule out, is it chromosomal X or whatever that genetic testing?
Okay.
The
the signs that they're using to say it's autism is he does do the flapping. We did not get he does do the flapping. That's about it, in the speech. So that's what's making me not comfortable that it's an autism diagnosis, because his original birthday was April 30th. So that every year, April 30th is when we start seeing improvements. For example, didn't speak until he was 3, but April we started getting words. April of this year, we're getting more sentences. We're getting that cognitive function. We're getting that response to a question, as opposed to that repeating. Just remove it, please. It's cooling. It is. To answer your question, I'm only comfortable with the diagnosis now because I see some of the signs of autism, but some of the other things that he's doing, I think, is just a time delay. And I can speak with you offline or when you come, and I paid you to do the evaluation to have you look at him, but I think we still need more time because, again, he was born 4 months early.
Okay. Well, as you start looking for the preschool program, you want to see what type of autistic support services they offer, what type of language instruction, if at all, what type of language intervention, speech and language services, and social skills training. Because the biggest issue with autistic children is the speech and language and the social skills. So you want to look to see what they offer in those areas.
Okay.
Now, it sounds like he might only be in preschool for a year before he goes to kindergarten.
Yes.
And one of the things that you're going to have to be very, very conscious of, and that is putting him in an autistic support class as a kindergartner, because if we're not sure it's autism and you put him in an autistic support class, there's a strong chance that his academics will suffer. And it's also a strong chance that the autistic behavior of the other kids in the autistic support class will rub off on your son, and he will start to appear autistic behaviorally, even though he's not. So, you know, this preschool year is going to be a time for you to really have to decide if you want him going into regular public school as a kindergartner already classified with the autism. Now, even if you do end up remaining firm in him having autism, that's still not enough to justify putting him in an autistic support class. One thing I need you to understand is to qualify for special ed, you not only must have a disability, you must evidence a need for that disability. In other words, I know dozens of autistic kids who are in the regular education classroom.
That is my concern.
Okay.
I think maybe, yes.
Now let me finish this first. Let me finish this first. And the reason they're in a regular education classroom is because they can learn as well as the regular kids. So if you can learn as well as the regular children, despite having a disability, you cannot qualify for special ed. Special ed is disability plus a need for special instruction. If a child can learn in the regular classroom with accommodations, they don't need special instruction. So if you say my son can learn as well as any other kindergarten kid, he just has some social skills issues, then my question would be, why not give him a one-to-one aid? Why not sit him at the front of the class? And if he does need some special, instruction of some type, have him remain in a regular class and just give him the lowest amount of special ed instruction necessary. Maybe he gets pulled out for 30 minutes a day at most to go over whatever he may have missed as a result of him being off task due to his autism. So you have to make sure, because a lot of black parents make the terrible mistake of putting kids in special ed just because they have a disability. You don't go into special ed because you have a disability. You go into special ed because your disability affects your learning.
Got it. Kind of like what you're familiar with Dr. 𝚂𝚗𝙱𝚂𝙺𝙴 said about special ed initially being for a loss of limb and needing assistance in that manner.
Okay. I'm not familiar, but he's not a school psychologist, so I wouldn't know.
No.
But very good brother, very good educator.
That helped me so much.
Yeah.
And I'll give it some more time, and then I will get with you to look at when they age him out or say he's ready for preschool to look over our paperwork. But I believe in this particular instance, that is the situation because of his progress in ABA and them aging him out after, a year. So, and I, as a parent, have that. I would need to advocate that, or is that a given?
Is what a given? Do you have to advocate for what? Say that again.
To, for example, based on his performance, either having him pulled out for a few, putting him in a class.
Okay, this is what's going to happen. One of two things are going to happen. In most states, children who receive early intervention service, special ed begins at age 3, and it goes to age 21 or high school graduation, whichever happens first.
Okay.
Age 3 to age 21 or high school graduation. So when your son is about to transition to regular public school kindergarten, if your state provides for an evaluation, a transition evaluation between preschool and kindergarten. So Pennsylvania provides for a transition evaluation between preschool and kindergarten. So if you live in Pennsylvania, you're going to get evaluated before you. Okay, so Indiana's the same way. So he's going to get evaluated before kindergarten, probably next year towards the end of 4th grade preschool. And that psychologist and evaluation team is going to determine if your son needs special ed in kindergarten. As the parent, I'm saying you need to make that decision before the eval even comes. In other words, when they interview you for the early intervention transition eval, you're going, because they might evaluate him for 4th grade early intervention. So we're not talking about the early intervention eval. We're talking about the evaluation he's going to get at the end of early intervention just before kindergarten. You need to already know. Right. You need to already, fall is kind of early because he's just about to go to preschool for the 4th grade. So that might be early. You might want to tell them to delay that until next summer. You follow? Because if he's about to start preschool, we haven't seen enough yet to decide whether he should go to kindergarten for special ed in kindergarten yet. Go to kindergarten for special ed. Go to special ed for kindergarten. So have them delay that a year because he's going to be there a year. They should be testing him towards the end so y'all have some data, some observation to go off. But you want to make the decision and you want to tell them. So when it's time for him to be evaluated at the end of 4th grade pre-K, you want to tell them, I want him in special ed when he gets to kindergarten, or I don't want him in special ed. Like they kind of defer to the parents a lot. So you want to let them know what you want. So even if you want him in special ed, you want to be clear about how much time you want him in special ed. You might just want him in special ed an hour a day, half the day. You should not want him in special ed full time.
I agree.
Unless he has a serious serious to profound autistic situation. I would not put a kid that young starting off in kindergarten in special ed full time. That's like killing the flower before it grows. You understand? You might want to put him in regular kindergarten and see how he does just with regular kindergarten and his speech and language. So he's going to have an IEP anyway for speech. He's going to have an IEP anyway for speech, but speech is not a class placement. Speech is only a service. So if you're a speech-only kid, you're in the regular class and you get pulled out by the speech and language pathologist to get your 30 minutes or your 60 minutes of speech every week. Okay? But what I want to say is I want you to really think about putting him in a regular class, speech only, and just tell the IEP team, I need a marking period to see how he does. Or if it were me, I would not give him more than an hour or two. And again, all this is contingent on how impaired his autism makes him. It all because, you know, autism is a spectrum. You could be a high functioning, you could be low functioning. If he's a high functioning autistic kid, he should be in a regular class, maybe a little bit of pullout, you know. But the reason why you got to be careful about putting black kids in special ed too early is schools like to increase the amount of special ed they get because it's easier for them to schedule kids in blocks. So if you say, I only want my special ed kid to get 30 minutes of special ed, okay, they are going to have a problem with that in some schools because it's hard for them to program for just 30 minutes, just an hour. They want to block schedule everybody. So they're going to want him in special ed half the day or all the day. So you're going to have to really be clear with them about what you want for your son. But the best rule, especially if he's high functioning autism, you want him in a regular class, maybe some pull-out, or maybe none at all for the first marking period or two.
Great. Dr. Umar, this has been amazing. I want to make sure that my husband and I follow up with you professionally with all of the paperwork to support and let you look at the diagnosis, his levels, and they seem to be pretty reasonable about that too. What is the best way to continue his journey with you going forward as we hit each milestone for school?
Well, you have my cell number, so you can just reach out, you know, as necessary. But please be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Be very patient.
Sure.
And be very suspicious of any additional labels that they might, because too often we let them load up on our kids with all these labels, and these labels don't solve no problems, you know. So it's important. One disability is enough. He got autism, he got speech, so he got two. The speech is not really a major, you know, so that's okay. But they might want to come with other stuff. You don't want all that. And the other thing too, if they need to evaluate him for preschool, early intervention services for preschool, I don't think they will, because you already mentioned IEP, so it sounds like he already had his early intervention eval. But if they have to do it again, make sure when you sign a permission to evaluate form, you specify, you write under your signature or above your signature, speech only and autism only.
Okay.
Because if you do not specify the type of evaluation that you want, they will come back telling you he got ADHD. They will come back telling you he's learning disabled. They will come back telling you he's retarded. They will come back with all kind of stuff that's not true and you never asked for. So make sure whenever you sign a permission form, whenever you sign a permission form, I don't care if it's a line for it or not, by your signature in bold letters. I tell parents all the time, speech only, autism only. Make sure you specify what you're given permission for the evaluation to look for.
Great. I will be in touch.
Will do.
This is the number I can use to Zelle?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, good sister. No problem. All right now.
Hello.
Sister Alicia, how you doing this morning, goddess?
Hi, good morning.
How's Atlanta treating you?
Everything's been going well. I'm so excited to be able to speak with you this
No
morning.
problem, no problem. I'll actually be in Albany, Georgia. I know that's about 2.5 hours from you, but I'll be in Albany, Georgia on the 30th of this month and the 1st of next month for the I Am a Man March. And there's a chance that I'll probably be speaking in Atlanta on the 29th of this month. I haven't decided yet, but just to let you know that. But go right ahead with your question, beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Umar. I hope to make it to one of those events. I was able to see you last time that you were in Albany. It was amazing. I actually brought my son.
You mean Macon, probably?
Me and him to meet you.
You mean Macon?
can't.
Or was it Augusta? Was it Augusta?
It was Augusta.
Augusta, yes, ma'am. Because I've never been to Albany before. This will be my first time. So, and that was my first time in Augusta. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, awesome. Yes. I was able to catch you in Augusta. We made that drive this evening.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Umar, I have a son. Me and my husband, he is 22 months. And we've pretty much had him around us at the home, educating him. But we want to really make sure that we're not missing out on the socialization of our child. So we haven't found any programs that would support a Black child at this age. And so I want to kind of figure out what to do about that, because I do want to make sure that he's well socialized.
Does he have any disabilities?
No disabilities.
Okay, just regular 2-year-old, almost 2 years old.
Yes.
You would probably need to find some other Black parents who also have a 2-year-old child to give them that opportunity to interact. That's usually where the daycare kind of come in a little bit. And then when he's 3 years old, the preschool. But if you guys decide not to send him to daycare, not to send him to preschool, which is fine, you would definitely have to program for that social, because they really need that at that young age. So I just think you have to meet some other parents. And since you're in the Atlanta area, I don't think you'll have any problem at all finding other parents who have 2 to 3-year-old children, and you guys can meet up for play dates, whether it's outside, at their house, your house, you know, different businesses that do programs for children, and, you know, different play dates and things at the amusement parks and children's parks and things like that. So, I mean, we have children all throughout our community, so you're probably just going to have to introduce yourself to some folks when you see him with the children. But I don't think you have a problem with that. He probably needs about 3 or 4 playmates, you know, that you could link him up with from time to time, you know, a couple hours every other day, you know, should be fine. And I think you'll be okay. But once he turns 3 in another year, you might want to consider an African-centered daycare. I know there's a couple down there in Atlanta. I've heard about them. I don't know their names, but I think you're okay for now. But I would start to seek some parents out who could who have children your son's age that he could begin to have play dates with. I would definitely do that. You know, even if you go out with the mom sometimes, let the children crawl around, play around, walk around, you know, it'd be good. It'd be really good for them.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Umar. Is there anything, when I do start to look for those preschool programs, what are some of the things that I should look for as far as the accreditation, the skill sets that they're teaching?
Accreditation for me is not as big of a deal, because some preschools that might be accredited are not good. And some preschools that are accredited might not be good. And some preschools that are not accredited may be very good. You know, so for me, I probably wouldn't hang my hat on that. But you want to observe. You definitely want to observe. You do not want to select a preschool that you haven't had a chance to sit in and observe the class that your son is likely to be in once he gets enrolled. And then you want to ask them, what do they do academically? Are there any is there any pre-academic curriculum that goes along with that preschool? Because a lot of preschools, all they do is put our kids in front of a TV and they watch cartoons all day, or they play with toys all day. And you don't want that. You want a preschool that's maybe teaching them another language, okay, that's working with them on their English, that's teaching them how to write, to read. You want a preschool that has a very strong early academic curriculum foundation. You don't want a babysitter. And a lot of daycares and a lot of preschools are nothing but babysitters, television and toys. You don't want that. So you want to ask them about their academics.
Awesome. As far as like time requirements, I did want to ask, when I am looking for preschools, is there a certain time requirement of education that he should be receiving at the ages of 2 and 3?
2 or 3, because they're so young, children don't hold attention that great. But I'm thinking 2 hours a day. At that age, it should be equal to their age. So he's 2. 2 hours of instruction. 3 hours of instruction. 4, 4, you got to be careful because 4 hours could be a lot. You probably got to break it up into 30-minute chunks, even 15-minute chunks for children of that age. But 2-3 hours should be enough. The most important thing for you to understand right now is between now and his 5th birthday, his brain is going to quadruple in its organization, in its development, and his vocabulary can also quadruple with his brain power. I'm saying that to say that we tend to stick our kids in front of TVs and toys at 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is the exact wrong thing to do, because the growth of his brain, the growth that his brain is going to undergo from 2 to 5, his brain is not likely to undergo that growth ever again that quickly. And because of that, we need to take advantage of that. We need to be reading to him. We need to be teaching him how to read. Even at 2 years old, he can learn his alphabet. He can learn his colors, his numbers, his sizes, his shapes. He can begin to learn his address, parents' phone number. Don't put limits on the minds of our children, because remember, our children develop faster than the children of any other race. So when they tell you a 2-year-old can do this, a black kid can do, a 2-year-old black kid can do what their kids can do at 4. A 4-year-old black kid can do what their kids can do at 6. Our children develop faster than every other race in the world. And because of that, we got to make sure we're not limiting to what white folks say they should be able to do. Our kids can do a whole lot more than any other children. But the biggest thing right now is putting him in front of books, because his vocab should quadruple by the time he hits kindergarten. And the reason why so many black kindergartners have such an impoverished working vocabulary is we don't put them in front of books. We put them in front of television and toys. A little bit of TV is okay. A little bit of toys okay. A lot of reading, a lot of books. Get your flashcards. There's a lot of academic games. You want to do a little bit of the computer stuff, the tablet stuff, but not too much. I really believe in old school academic activities that are fun with children. Go back to the flashcards, the coloring books, teach them how to hold his crayons, how to hold his pencils. Start doing the pre-academic stuff now. When he gets to kindergarten, he should already know the letters, the numbers, the colors, the sizes, the shape, the address, the phone number, left, right, up, down, parts of the body, bones, eyes, lips. He should be able to identify all the parts of the body. At his age is when they are most able to increase their vocab and learn basic bits of information, bones of the body, colors, numbers, anything that requires a lot of digits, a lot of bits of information within a larger set. He can master all that stuff right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Umar. You have really answered a lot of my questions and set my mind at ease this morning. I really do appreciate it.
No problem, Queen. No problem. Keep me posted. Anything comes up.
Okay, will do.
All right now.
Thank you so much. You have a wonderful day.
You too now. Peace.
Dr. Umar, how's everything going?
Peace and love, brother Alden. How's Toronto, Canada treating you, good brother?
Man, this bipolar weather is crazy, but we're getting there.
I feel you. I feel you. What's your question, good brother?
As of right now, my son's one. He did have an episode of seizures when he was about, let's say, 4 to 6 months. We did bring him to, introduce him to our pediatrician. Pretty much brought us to our hospital in Hamilton, Ontario. He did go under a few studies. Come to find out that muscle tone has been great. Yeah, a couple dots were shown on, I believe on his, I forgot what you called it, but it's when they take a look at your brain and just wanted to see what's going on with this neurological situation, and everything that has been going fine. But as a kid coming up, I did have ADHD or was diagnosed. I did also had to go through a lot of medication and all that. And it is kind of a scary process for me, but I want to know how I can meet it. So not that I could beat it, but I can treat it and make sure that he doesn't undergo the same things that I went when I was a young one. And that'll happen between the ages of 4 and 5 for me, but he's 1. So I want to be able to at least beat it before I can, just put him in that situation, which may not be comfortable for him coming up.
Now, when you say you want to beat it, beat what? What is the condition that you're speaking
I want
of?
to make sure that he doesn't get placed under the diagnosis of ADHD or AD.
Well,
I don't know how I can do that before that.
Well, I'm of the opinion that ADHD doesn't exist, that it's a fraud. And, so it's not so much about making sure he doesn't get diagnosed with ADHD, because if you don't take him to get evaluated, he can't get diagnosed. You feel me? So if it's something that you don't believe in, you simply don't take him to get evaluated. And that's the end of that. But I would say, that it's important for us as Black men raising Black boys that we begin to introduce some form of behavioral expectation for our children as they get closer to their 3rd birthday. Because a lot of times what happens is we kind of let them do whatever they want when they want. We don't ask them to sit still. We don't ask them to sit down. We don't ask them to stop. We don't ask them to be quiet. We don't ask them to pay attention. And then they get to daycare or preschool. And the first thing happens is the white teachers are complaining about the behavior of our children, which is normal behavior because they're kids, but we got to realize that Black boys are always going to be criminalized, and white supremacy doesn't care whether he's 3, 13, or 23. They're going to criminalize him. So you're just going to have to make sure that around 2.5, getting closer to that 3rd birthday, you start introducing just a little bit of discipline in there. Have him sit at a little preschool desk and play in the, write in the coloring book a little bit. Make sure he takes a nap during the day and actually stays in the bed when he takes his nap. Make sure if he has a temper tantrum, he's put in time out. Basically, you want to make sure he begins to learn that there's consequences for behaviors and there's consequences for decisions. And a lot of our children don't learn that there's consequences for your behavior until they get in front of these white teachers. And then they start being emotionally abused. And we don't want that. So you just want to make sure you don't want to abuse them. Okay. And we don't need to physically spank them either. But timeout can be a very, very powerful consequence for children who don't know how to listen or don't want to listen. Because remember, the most important thing to a child is parents' attention. Your attention is more important to them than food or oxygen. They want their parents' love. And so sometimes you have to deprive them of your attention in order to get them to do what you want them to do. But you want to introduce that. Our children have to have some degree of self-control. They're kids, so they're not going to have total self-control, but they need to have some degree of self-control. They need to be able to respond to the instructions of adults when they get into daycare and preschool. And if they can't do that, they're going to have a difficult time. So you want to make sure you practice some of that at home.
Absolutely. Well, no, man, that's definitely good information. And by the way, he is in daycare already. And by the looks of things, he is doing well, by what his daycare teachers are saying. And that thing that you said that, the young boys do get criminalized at an early age, and even from the outset, even going into their teens and adulthood, I do believe that is a thing that definitely happens 100%. So just to even shed light on that, yeah, I'm definitely going to take those steps into making sure that my presence is a priority and that we could meet it right then and there so we can avoid any type of things that could be, detrimental to his growth. So, Dr. Umar, thank you for the information. I appreciate it.
No problem, King. Take care now.
Be safe.
All right. Brother Daryl, how do Black families address their family without bravado being challenged as toxic masculinity or verbal abuse? The outside world has passionate conversation turned into. First of all, Toxic masculinity. One thing we got to understand about the white power structure, they invent words in order to strengthen the false narratives that they have about African people. Okay, they create concepts and terms out of thin air that are totally bogus in order to feed their propaganda narrative. If there's a such thing as toxic masculinity, then there has to be such thing as toxic femininity or toxic feminism. I've never seen the media speak about toxic femininity or toxic feminism. So why is it that masculinity can be toxic, but feminism cannot be toxic? And that's because the power structure has an agenda to criminalize traditional black masculinity. They want all the men to be tender. They want all the men to be docile. They want all the men to be meek. And they want the men to turn their backs on black women. That's what they want. They want to destroy the black family structure. And part of the narrative, part of the propaganda to destroy the black family structure is to push this concept of toxic masculinity. If you notice, there was no conversation about toxic masculinity until they started pushing the rainbow agenda. And as soon as they started pushing the rainbow agenda real intensely during the Barack Obama administration, then you started hearing this conversation about toxic masculinity, which basically says any traditionally male behavior is toxic masculinity. Well, America bombing Somalia, wasn't that toxic masculinity? Why wasn't it called so? The police who murdered Amir Locke, wasn't that toxic masculinity? The police who murdered Breonna Taylor, wasn't that toxic masculinity? George Zimmerman murdering Trayvon, wasn't that toxic masculinity? All these white male police, you had a few females. Okay, Dante's killer was a female, but most of them were white males. Why doesn't the media or the government ever use the term toxic masculinity in reference to police, okay, genocide and brutality? Because they only use it, mostly use it when they're dealing with black males. I mean, let's be honest. We don't want violence and we don't promote violence, but violence is a form of masculinity. War is a part of life. War is a part of existence. People have gone to war since the beginning of time. We don't like war, but war becomes necessary when you have to defend your family. War becomes necessary when you have to protect your wife. War becomes necessary when you have to defend your community. Okay? War is not toxic masculinity. War is a man's responsibility to defend his community and his family when necessary. So it amazes me that we have all this dysfunctional European male behavior in this society, and it's never characterized as toxic masculinity. We have all this dysfunctional, unhealthy European male behavior, and it's never called toxic masculinity. They stopped my Instagram video because I spoke on toxic masculinity. Wait a minute. 1 second, Facebook. Do not call my phone. I won't answer you. You're supposed to text me for the Black Parent teleconference. Do not call my phone. I will not answer you at this time. We have to follow directions. If you have a question about your child, you can text message me and I will call you. Okay. Good question, Brother Darrell. Toxic masculinity is a joke. White fragility is a joke. White guilt is a joke. Reverse racism is a joke. All these are fake words, fake concepts. Reverse racism. No such thing as reverse racism. There's no such thing as reverse racism. There's no such thing as white fragility. There's no such thing as white guilt. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Okay? My name is Elisa from St. Louis, Missouri. I have 4 young boys who don't want to read books on our people. 9, 8, 11, and 13 who used to live in a home with their dad. Their dad didn't and still doesn't do anything with them. They needed good insight from a positive black man. Please help. One of which is a highly sensitive child with some emotional trauma. St. Louis. So we have to find some brothers in St. Louis who can spend some time with your young men. If you text me this afternoon, Sister Elisa, I'll reach out to some of my St. Louis contacts to see if there's any programs going on for young black men. One place you should check with, Sister Elisa, is Better Family Life. I want you to check with Better Family Life to see what programs they have. But you can also text me this afternoon and I'll do a little hunting for you as well. Okay? What's with the hate of members of the rainbow community? You're a very intelligent man. I like to debate you on your views. I support and believe in your mission, but you need us rainbow folk as well. How do you move forward with leaving some of your people behind? From McHenry, Illinois. Well, this is a Black Parent teleconference, so I don't want to get involved in the politics of the rainbow agenda. I would only say to you, my brother, that despite your orientation towards life, I still respect you and love you as a black man, although I disagree with your lifestyle. And I disagree with your lifestyle because it is a serious risk factor to the survival of the traditional black family, and that your lifestyle has been exploited by the FBI, the CIA, the American white power structure, and the global white power structure to bring about the dissolution of the traditional black family, okay, and the genocide of African people. So although you're not personally responsible for that, the government has seized upon your lifestyle and is using it as a weapon of population control for African people. There is no hate. Your question mentioned the word hate. Now, if you can prove to me that I've ever taught or preached hate against members of your community, I would like to see the evidence, sir. Okay? If I've ever taught people to hate you, I owe you an apology. But I can promise you, you will find no evidence of me ever teaching hate against members of your community. You can go to YouTube. I don't have a YouTube page, but I have more videos on YouTube than any scholar alive. So you can look at those YouTube videos when I discuss your topic in particular. And if you can find a single statement out of my mouth that advocates hate to members of your community, I would like to know what that is. Moving on.
Morning, Dr. Umar.
Brother Johnny, good morning. Brooklyn. Good morning to Brooklyn. What's your question, good brother?
I feel like, I've been watching you for a very long time, and everything you say about special ed, the educational system, mental health, when it comes to black youth, black men, I feel like I'm a victim of it. I'm 29 years old. I got an 11-year-old son, and it's like a repetitive thing. Like, it's generational, though, because my mom and my dad really wasn't, effective in my life. I was raised by my grandparents, and my son's mom and grandmother are, very combative with me when it comes to me trying to be a dad, knowing that my dad wasn't in my life. You feel me? So my grandparents took the advice of the educational system and put me on meds and put me in special ed and do all this other stuff, have me in programs, treatments, and it really didn't do nothing for me. So when I turned 18, I signed out the program. So basically my thing right now is I'm just calling because I need advice. I really don't want to sign my rights over for my son, but I tried to be the best dad that I know that I could be at the moment. And, you know, it's like, it's basically fighting with me mentally to just try and be like, all right, I tried. I've been to jail for asking to see my kid. I've been to jail for taking clothes to my baby mom's house. I've been to jail for, and I'm not gonna say it's just them, but verbally, like I'm very bad with my words when I get angry. So it's like I try to like not project that towards my kid in front of him, but they try to use that against me. So basically, I need advice. Like as a black man, you know, like. No,
question. I got a question for you. I got a question for you. And I hate family court. I hate it with a passion because there's nothing worse than black people going right back to the white folks after slavery and asking them to settle disputes between a black man and a black woman over a black child. Family court is nothing but a form of slavery. Now, with that being said, though, if you cannot come to an amicable agreement with your son's mother and grandmother, you may have to put a petition into family court, my brother. So you get shared legal custody. So you guys have to make all medical and educational decisions together. Shared legal, that's one. And number two, shared physical custody to make sure you get to see your son as often as you would like to. Because if it's not working with her.
I know I did that. My son was born in 2011. 2012, I was 18. I went to family court in Brooklyn and signed a petition for visitation rights and part custody. Like,
so you get
to see him.
Okay, do you get time with him?
Nah, my baby mother stops that. She gets me locked up and gets all types of reports and stuff on me that's nonsense.
But
don't come to court. Stops me from like reaching my goals. Like I was saying in 2012, I was going to school to be an EMT, and I went to court just for visitation rights, and they said they needed child support, and she agreed to it.
Okay, so you paying your child support, right?
So, and at that time, I wasn't like financially stable. I was going to school to be an EMT, so I would have got a certification to like, you know, finish my EMT courses, and then I'll get a job with that.
Right. So here's what I'm not understanding, my brother. If she don't let you see your child, first of all, do you have a designated time on paper from the court for when you're supposed to get your child, or do you only have visitation where you go to her house to see?
I have nothing, Dr. Umar, and all they're asking me for, they're sending mail to my house for child support. And I've been trying to like communicate with family members of hers, and it's just like, it's draining.
Okay.
I'm not a messed up individual because, like I said, I've been through it. So I don't want to do it to my own kid, but it's like, I don't want to go to the court system. I've been through the whole system. Like, but
here's the thing, my brother, listen to me. You're already in the system because she got you in for child support. So you're already in the system. You need to go and petition the court for partial custody of your son. You feel me? You're going to have to do that, my brother. Stop trying to make a way with her if she's not trying to make a way with you. I mean, I think we should try to work with the mothers of our children. But if she's made up her mind to be disagreeable with you, then you have to accept what is in front of you. Hopefully she'll change as she gets older. You have to accept what's in front of you, go to court, and put in a petition for partial physical custody and shared legal custody. Stop playing around with this, and I'm going to tell you why. Your son is 11. If the schools tries to special educate him, if they try to medicate him, you don't have any say-so in what his mother decides to let the school do with your son educationally or medically. You need shared legal right now because he's at that age where they're going to start criminalizing him, possibly. Hopefully they never do, but it's likely. And you need to be able to show up at that school with a copy of the judge's order of shared educational and medical decisions, legal custody, and give a copy to the school and tell them y'all can't make decisions without both of us being present. And I want to know about every meeting that's held about my son. You got to get that because it sounds like, you know, what a lot of black women do. I went through it myself, my brother. I went through it myself. Okay, well, my daughter's mother did the same thing. They try to keep you out of the child's life for whatever reason. In my case, she wanted to get married. I didn't marry her, so she kept me out of my child's life. It's what they do. And I had legal shared custody on paper, but the courts didn't reinforce it. They never punished her when she didn't produce the child, you see. So I understand that you can get shared legal custody and they still not guarantee you time with your child. But you still need to have it on paper to prove you fought for your child, because your child is going to one day ask you, did you fight for me? And you need to pull out the paper.
Can I speak on that? I'm sorry to cut you off.
But I'm not done. Hold on. But the other thing, too, is you need that shared legal, my brother. So if the school starts trying to screw your son over, you can stop them from making decisions without you being present. You just can't keep sitting letting the clock tick because he's a black boy. You understand? So we got to make sure you have legal say-so over the decisions made for him. Continue.
All right. So, like I said, my parents, it's like a repetitive thing for me to see and go through because my parents did the same thing. Like my mom raised me telling me that my dad wasn't a good man and whatever the case may be. So,
and that's why you can't disappear. And that's exactly why.
She basically put a perception in my mind that, you know, my dad wasn't the guy in my life, or whatever the case may be. And as I got older and I lived with my mom and I started to see the things that she did and how she lived life, and I realized that my dad just took a way out. I mean, it wasn't right, but at the same time, I don't know where he would be and what type of messed up lifestyle he would be in if he didn't sign his rights over for me. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't want to be.
Do not sign your rights away to your son, brother. He will hate you. And as a man, you can't do that. All you have to do is go to court and fight for your son. Even if, because don't get me wrong, brother, you can get.
I hated my dad. That's what I'm saying. I hated my dad until I had a conversation with him. And his conversation was more of it wasn't about fighting a court system. It was about fighting a court system and a whole family.
I understand that, but you keep.
You know what I mean? Like,
right, but.
At the end of the day, I mean, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Well, first of all, you just gave every reason why you must fight for your son. But what I'm telling you, as someone who deals with black boys on a regular basis, and I'm hearing you, brother, and I'm sorry you got to go through that. I'm sorry you got to go through that. But this is why we as black men have to make better decisions with the women we choose to get involved in. Because there's a lot of women out here, they are abused, they've been wounded, they have not been healed. They're looking for men to solve all their problems for them. They want no responsibility for their unhappiness. And if you do not show up like a knight in shining armor, offering them a solution for all their problems, they will try to destroy you for not solving their emotional wounds. You see, so we have to do a better job of choosing the women that we decide to come into our life, because there's a lot of good women out here. There's a lot of good women, but there's a lot of bad ones too. There's a lot of wounded souls. There's a lot of wounded black men walking around. There's a lot of wounded black women, because this is not just a black women thing. This is not just a black men are also just as toxic and just as destructive and just as neglectful of the best interests of our children as are the women. I see it both ways, and I've been involved in situations on both sides. As a therapist, as an educator, school, I've seen it. So men and women can be toxic when it comes to co-parenting the child. But what I'm saying to you, my good brother, is it sounds like you still want a relationship with your son's mother. Now, I want you to be honest with me. I want you to be honest with me.
I want a relationship with my son, but I don't want to be like that. I don't want to curb. I don't want to be fucked up, basically. Like,
I understand that, but
right now, mentally, I tried it, bro. She locked me up for no reason, and I went back and had this. If I wanted to see my kid,
why did you get locked up? Why did you get locked up? Tell me what happened. They put handcuffs on you specifically for doing what?
All right, so basically, me and my mans used to live across the street from my baby moms, and I used to like try to see her and interact with her. Like you said, don't try to push that onto her, but if she's not ready. So I'm not a court going person. Like, I'm a street nigga. Sorry to say it like that. I'm a street nigga. Like, I work now, but back then I was in the street. So it wasn't a given that I'm going to court for my kid, for myself, nothing. So I was trying to communicate with her. Basically, she called the police and told them that that I had a knife and said I was going to kill her and all this other stuff when I had drugs on me. So when the police pulled me over, I got locked up for drugs and assault against my baby moms. That never happened. When I asked, just could I talk to you from across the street? Like, so, but my thing is, she told me when I came home, yo, if you want to see your son, you have to come sit in my house. I did that by all means.
Okay, I did it. Okay, I understand that. I did it too, okay? I went and used to go sit.
I don't think you wanted to be with your baby mom, no. I think it was more of your kid, less than your baby mom.
I agree, but the difference, right? But the difference, though, between me and you is that it seems like you still want this confrontation with the mother when you can just deal with the.
I get it. Nah, listen, Dr. Umar, I understand totally what you're saying. I don't want no type of confrontation. My son is 11. He's able to talk and communicate with me and you in two different conversations. I don't need you. What I need is your acceptance, because your family is not going to do that. So, okay, cool. You're not going to give me it. I'll go to court. But if I'm going to court and they're taking pay, like, I haven't seen my kid like in maybe 4 years, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, but it's a whole bunch of pain and turmoil that she did to me and put me through that. It wouldn't just be able to put on the phone. But my thing is, I just don't want to be the fucked up dad. Like, because I felt like my dad was fucked up, but in all reality, he had to think about himself. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do the same, knowing that the right way of life is to take care of my child and support my child and do what I can. But when I did it and I tried to make it work at a certain length and at my willpower, it didn't work for you. So now that I'm at a point in space where it's like, fuck y'all, fuck you, fuck the kid. Like, that's just.
Oh man, don't say F your kid, mom. No, brother, no. You can't say F your kid. He innocent, brother. He didn't ask to be in this world. Your son didn't ask to be in this world.
She put him on the phone and asked me to act. She asked my son to ask me, why do I disrespect his mother? And if I don't respect her, she's not gonna. If I don't respect her, he's not gonna respect me. At 10 years old,
he shouldn't be involved in that. She had no right to put him on the phone.
His mindset is infiltrated like mine was.
He's a child, my brother.
To get over that.
Okay, listen. I hope, my brother, and I hope your ancestors.
I'm sorry.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate you being honest, my brother. You cannot give up on your son. You cannot walk out on your son. You cannot be angry at your son. His mother is using him. His mother is manipulating him, but he's a boy. You can get him back. That means nothing. That means nothing. The bottom line, here's what you got going for you. Here's what you got going for you. He's a boy, a male child, right? The courts tend to be a little bit more lenient with fathers when it is a male child, because they see what goes on with young black men in these streets. I have 2 daughters. I don't have a son. You understand? You have a son. So you have to make the case that I don't want my son to make some of the mistakes that I made. I need to be involved. But my issue with you, my brother, You have not petitioned the court for any kind of physical custody yet. Listen, what I need you to understand, I don't care if you say you can only spend a day with your son. I don't care if you pick him up Sunday at noon and return him Monday at noon, or pick him up Friday at 5 and return him Saturday at 5. It's not the quantity of the time. It's the quality that you spend with him during that time. And I tell fathers and non-custodial parents this all the time. I get fathers say, Dr. Umar, I work, I drive trucks. I can only spend 1 day a week with him. That's not a problem. As long as you are consistent with your 1 day a week. The child needs quality of time, not quantity of time. A father who spends 1 day with his child, 1 day, is doing a better job than a father who has the child 4 days and never spends any time with the kid, don't focus on the kid, dropping him off with his grandmom, dropping him off with his aunt, taking him while he's running errands. The kid who got 1 day had a better experience with his father than the kid who had 4 days because the father was too busy to focus on the kid. You need to go to the court. You keep on messing with that woman, trying to get her to work with you. It's not going to happen, brother. Okay, it's not going to happen. Some women, it's who they are. They've been raised by their mothers to disrespect black men and to be disagreeable with black men. And it sounds like you accidentally ran into that type of women. Every black woman ain't like that, but that's the one you got. So you got to make sure you don't repeat the situation. You got to make sure you don't repeat the situation. But with your son being 11, bro, you can't afford to turn your back. You got the rainbow community out here. They out here giving our boys hormones.
That right there, that issue with him is crazy.
So you need to go to court, my brother. We can talk some more later if you want to hit me up later, but you got to go to court and petition for shared legal and partial physical custody, my brother. That's what you got to do.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Umar. And I'm definitely trying to come to your school and see it out. And, you know, I really listen to you every day, man.
Yes, sir. I'll be in Long Island on April 16th if you want to come through the Roosevelt Public Library, free event in Long Island, New York, April the 16th, 2 to 6. Yeah.
All right, cool. No problem. I'll try to make it, man. Thank you. I appreciate you so much, and I'm going to definitely be at court on Monday, man.
Yes, sir, man. Do that, man. Don't trust me. You can't do that to your son, bro. We fight for that boy, man. He needs you. He in a house full of toxic women, it sounds like. Fight for your son.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Thank you, man.
Okay, bro.